Yo, 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 it's your man's Big Daddy Roughneck. You're tuned into the Gary Brugman Podcast, episode 55. Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman joins us. Prepare to be entertained.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. As TJ said, yes, we have Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman. It's going to be a great time, whether you hear what this man has to say. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. So get ready to bounce off some guardrails and let's get to it. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. As TJ said, episode 55, and we got a great guest for you here today, man. What's up, TJ?
What's up, Gary?
What's in your hand?
Well, you know, since your visit here, you got me hooked on cigars again. So
I gotta send you some war fighters.
Little humidor. I got a little cherry tobacco over here.
Nice. I'm gonna send you some war fighters, man.
I was looking at Warfighter. I'm gonna put in a large order coming soon. I like the Warfighter.
Dude, I'll send you some here shortly. But first, before we even get started, you know, if y'all are listening on Apple, please leave us a 5-star rating and a short review so that we can climb up that ratings ladder. You know, we know it's pure vanity, but we're trying to get to number one. And we've only been around since February. And Joe Rogan's number one, but with your help, we're gonna make him number two. We're gonna make Joe Rogan number two. And as usual, you're at the mercy of whatever interests me today. And damn it, where do you see what's interesting me today? So before I get started, I got to thank Maximum Altitude for all your custom truck accessories and off-road needs. Call my brother Joey Max. Joey Max is a Air Force veteran. Let's not forget that. And Maximum Altitude has a state-of-the-art shop and showroom that'll floor you. Maximum Altitude's been in business here in San Antonio for 26 years, and he's the pioneer in custom trucks in South Texas. So go to MaximumAltitude.com. or go to Maximum Altitude on Facebook and Instagram, or just call my brother Joey direct at 210-655-0184. And don't worry, your wife called. She said it's okay.
And so did your mother over here, you basement dwellers.
That's right, she did. Call your mama on that one. Hey, and let me tell you, man, if you ever thought about what the life was of an old Border Patrol agent, you got to go to Old Patrol HQ. It's a Facebook and Instagram page about life in the old Border Patrol. And if you really want to hear what life was like, you got to go to the Old Patrol HQ podcast. My brother Gil, he's got a great podcast with old agents from the 1960s and 70s. These guys are 85, 86 years old, telling the story of what they did in the Border Patrol back in like 1958, 1960. And don't forget to go to oldpatrolhq.bigcartel.com and buy some of his cups, T-shirts, and hats, because he's got great Border Patrol merchandise. And he's also got the official Gary Brugman Podcast T-shirt. $30 will get you a T-shirt, shipping included. So that's included in the price. So $30 even, and you get one of those. So follow Old Patrol HQ on Facebook and Instagram for some history, some laughs, and a few shenanigans along the way. And remember, there ain't no patrol like the Old Patrol.
There ain't no patrol like the old patrol, baby.
That's right, brother. Honor first, honor always. And lastly, of course, we got to thank Hero Soap Company. It's been one of our first sponsors. Don't be laughing, man. You always giggle when I say this. You're going to make our guests crack up. Hero Soap Company strives to pay homage to the values that our country was founded on by our forefathers. They're a veteran-owned company, and a portion of all sales is donated back to charities that are focused on helping veterans and first responders. Each bar of soap is made in Phoenix, Arizona, and all ingredients for the soap, the scrubs, and their clothing are sourced from companies right here in the United States of America. And use promo code HONOR1ST for 10% off every order. It's a promo code they came up with for the listeners of my podcast, Gary Brugman Podcast, and it's HONOR first at checkout. Get you 10% off every order. So go ahead and check out their website, order some soap, and wash your damn taint.
Wash your taint. And I got to tell you, I recommend the Peppermint Cool, especially if you take showers in the morning. That Peppermint Cool will wake you up. It is a taint tingler.
Taint tingler. Tingly taint in the mornings. That's what we like.
Right. We don't like a tingly taint.
Brother, so, you know, normally we chit-chat for a while and talk about what's happened, but we're going to do all that. But, man, I'm so excited because we have a special guest here today, and it's really awesome because
huge.
When I got out of the military and I went to the Border Patrol, right? I went to the major law enforcement agency, and I'm working on the U.S.-Mexico border, and I got turned on to his book called On Killing. It's Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman. Lieutenant Colonel, how you doing, sir?
If it's any better, it'd be illegal, brother.
That's fantastic.
We're on the front lines of freedom of America right now. We've got an opportunity to get a voice out there. I want to tell you something. I try to say this early in every podcast. You know, when I was a kid, I'm 64. I'm still in the fight for another 20 years, right? But when I was a kid, we had like 3 networks, and we had 1, maybe 2 newspapers, and maybe 10 national magazines. And if you weren't in those, there was no way to get your story heard.
Right.
But today, we've broken the log jam, and we've got true citizen journalism. These podcasts are one of the most powerful tools. I've been on 60 Minutes and 2020 and Larry King. Now, they don't amount to nothing. 5 minutes, you know, if they whittle it down to a few minutes, you got no control of what they're going to do. And a week later, who cares? But these podcasts give us an opportunity to get deep into a subject, number one. And number two, they're archived, and you go back to them 100 years from now. People will go back to these. This is true citizen journalism, and I honor you and TJ for doing this, and I honor your listeners.
Thank you.
For seeking that deeper level of knowledge, and so it's a real honor to be here today. And you know, when we get cranked up here, yes. I'm going to kind of on my social media talk about you guys, and they'll be coming here and they'll be hearing you for the first time. Now, right up front is we got TJ here. He's a retired firefighter.
Correct.
You know, the cops are jealous of firefighters, you know, because they get to sleep on the job. Only firefighters and prostitutes make money in bed.
Whoa! Whoa!
Hey, I've known a few firefighters that are prostitutes.
My heart! Oh, my heart! Jeez.
But the truth is that TJ, you're the adult supervision here. The difference between us and the Boy Scouts have adult supervision, right? So what I'd like to do is, in just a few minutes, if you can,
yes, sir,
recap what happened to you, Gary, and then I'm going to talk about what happened to me,
mm-hmm.
and the way our cops are being attacked, and the end state and the glide path of where we're headed to. This whole dynamic that we've been spinning downhill, and you were like early on in the process when we began all this goofiness, and it's gone downhill ever since. So just recap quickly, if you could, and kind of what happened, and then we'll go from there on where we're at today.
Absolutely, sir. I'm going to make it quick because I don't want to take too much time away from you, and a lot of people know this story, but I want to get it out there clear. In January, this coming January will be 20 years that this first incident happened. In January of 2001, I chased a group of illegal aliens on the Rio Grande through a pecan orchard. I yelled for them to stop. I chased them for 1.5 miles. Stop, stop, stop. A rookie agent that was with his journeyman caught the group and was trying to get them to sit down, but he didn't have the situation under control. He only been out in the field 4 days, out in the field. So he was trying to get them to sit down, being kind of nice about it. Some were sitting, some were standing. So there were 2 behind them that were getting ready to run. So I came running from a flank position. I came from their side, and I saw what they were doing, and they weren't listening to task direction. So I put my hand on my weapon like I was trained, and I used my foot as an extension of my arm, and I pushed them from the squatting to the sitting position, which is known as a front kick. All right. So I just pushed them, knocked them on their ass. They got transferred to the station. That's all I heard about that. At the time, we do it all the time. 6 weeks later, and on February 22nd, that was January 14th. On February 22nd, we caught a load of dope. It was at 864 pounds, I believe. There were 7 mules, and we had caught all of them, but 2 were missing. And the infrared cameras guided me to their position. This is about 4:30 in the morning on the Rio Grande in February. So there was like a dew on the high grass. The grass was about knee high. And I saw them, and the camera guided me, and I saw them. So I started chasing them. They ran. They hit a fence line. They banged a right, and I was right there. I almost had them. The first guy went through the barbed wire fence. The second guy hit the fence and flopped over. So I had my body armor on. So I hit the fence and flopped over as well. And now we're all on the ground on the other side. First guy got up and ran. The second guy was getting up, and I got him by the legs, and we were kind of tussling. And I don't know exactly how it happened, but the next thing I saw were my boots and the stars in the same picture, and the guy body slammed me on the ground.
Wow.
He jumped on top of me. He straddled me. He sat on top of me and had his hands around my throat. So I pushed him off, and I was trying to get him by his throat, but we were sweating, so I kept sliding off, and I grabbed his shirt, and I kept his arm straight, and with his other hand, he pinned me to the ground. So now I'm fighting, and I'm tired, And I had just chased a bunch of other guys, and I'm going, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Oh my God, is this how it ends? And I started praying. I said, God, please help me. I got my hand loose. I hit him on the side of the head. He fell off. I rolled over on top of him. Now I'm lying on top of him. I put my forearm into his throat. I started pushing down, and his arm, which was now underneath me, I can feel him grabbing my handcuffs. So, Dave, you know good and well, if somebody gets your handcuffs, they can use them as a gouging tool and cause a lot of. Plus, I also had pepper spray and a firearm on my gun belt. So I said, all right, this is going to stop here. So I wound up and I punched him 3 times in the face, on the nose to be exact, broke his nose on the second one. I felt it. And then he said, officer, please don't hit me anymore. I said, then stop fighting, MFer, you know. And this was all in Spanish. So that was it. We turned him over to the DEA. He got prosecuted, got 57 months in prison. Well, on March 15th of 2001, I get called in after qualifying at the range. My supervisors take my weapon away and tell me that I'm under investigation. And for the next 14 months, I had no idea why. And until I got the letter from the U.S. Attorney telling me I'm the target of investigation. 4 months after that, a total of 18 months, I got taken to trial. Not once did I see an investigator. Not once did anybody ask me my side of the story until I was sitting on the stand at my trial. And I got convicted for it, and I served 2 years in prison.
Yeah.
And
you know, let's take that now and understand the glide slope since then. You know, the dynamic is out there that, you know, and I'm going to show you some data here about crime data. 2015, 16, the homicide rate exploded.
right.
And here's a good place to introduce this to your listeners, and it's something I talk about often. The first thing you need to realize is when we try to track how bad the situation is, they often use the murder rate. Now, the ag assault rate, aggravated assault, is too easy to fudge the figures. Where do you draw the line? Define for me the difference between ag assault and simple assault. You know, there is no hard line. It's like grade inflation in the schools. You know, where do you draw the line for the A and a B? It's grade inflation, right? So the murder rate is called the gold standard, but the problem is the murder rate is being held down by medical technology.
Right.
The doctors are saving ever more lives. And this is terribly important. This is crucial to understanding the big picture. So right around the year 2000, we had a study by UMass and Harvard that said since they started keeping track of the murder rate, since between the early 60s to the late 1990s, medical technology has cut the murder rate to a third or a quarter of what it would otherwise be.
I didn't know.
And that's crazy.
Wow.
If you want to compare the murder rate in 1960 and 2000, you have to multiply by 4 in 2000 to equal what was happening in 1960. And that was 20 years ago. One medical expert says tourniquets alone have cut the murder rate in half in just the last decade. EMS, cop, everybody's got tourniquets now.
Got them in my car.
I got 100 cops in the audience. How many all carry tourniquets? Every hand's up. How many carried tourniquets 10 years ago? Nobody. That cop slaps on a tourniquet, saves a life, he's prevented a murder.
Right.
500,000 cops
I
on duty.
never saw it that way, sir.
Yeah, 500,000 cops on duty. Another 500,000 odd EMS out there. In these incredibly violent times with all these people out there, if just 20 to 30 people a day slap on a tourniquet, save a life, we cut the murder rate in half. And so the dynamic is much worse than it looks. So I want you to look at something now. This is the number of people murdered in America. And it's really pretty important to understand what's going on. This right out of the Uniform Crime Report, right?
Right.
So in 2006, we had 17,000 Americans murdered. 2008, 16,000. 2009, 15,000. 2010, 14,000. 14,000. And then in 2015, 16, it exploded like nothing we have ever seen.
Wow, look at that spike.
And you know, I taught the American Sheriffs Association. Had 400 sheriffs out there. Sheriff, how many of y'all saw this? Well, why wasn't that in the news? If there's just a stock market, we hear about it every day.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. If it was the Dow Jones, it'd be a whole different story.
If it was interest rates or inflation rates, We'd hear about it once a month. How could these be happening year after year? Well, here's the point. The FBI guys have put this data together. They call it the Ferguson effect. Ferguson, Missouri, and they say that we have created a sense of anger in our criminals. Now, here's the key. We've been on this glide slope for a long time. The idea that the cop is the bad guy. Now, I'm a burnout old geezer, 64 years old. Maybe I lost it. I always thought if you're criminal, you'd live your life in fear. You should be paranoid.
Correct.
Yeah.
The world really is out to get you. You're a criminal. But now we tell them this, and it is a very, very tragic, destructive script that says the cops are the bad guys and the crooks are the good guys. And that is destructive to our entire civilization. So let's come from there. So far this year, Minneapolis, New York, Chicago, almost every major city have seen more murders so far this year than all of last year put together. And last year was a pretty bad year. We had a little bit of a dip last year, and then this year it has exploded like nothing we've ever seen before.
Yes.
And what we're looking at, this is the glide path of this trajectory where we say the cops, the bad guys, and the criminals are the good guys. Now, cops need to be held to a standard, but what happened to you was a crime. And it's been going bad ever since.
I always say that this whole war on cops actually started slowly with my case, because before that, you had some bad cops and you had them prosecuted and you heard about some things, but going after cops for any reason, you never heard of that until my case. And then after that, you had Ramos and Campo and then a couple of other deputies and stuff.
And it really is a war on cops.
Yes.
When I grew up, we talked about a war on crime. I'm the candidate that wants to fight crime. I'm the anti-crime candidate. Now, they want to be the anti-cop candidate.
Right.
That's what this election is all about. This is bizarre. But then another angle that's going on under is terribly important. We've got mayors telling people to not obey the law, telling them to stand down. But it started before then with sanctuary states and sanctuary cities.
Correct.
The idea that an entire state is telling people to disobey the law. The state of California, sanctuary states. So this idea of the government telling people to disobey the law. We had a Supreme Court justice a couple years back, pretty smart guy, Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis said, crime is contagious. If the government becomes a lawbreaker or the government tells you to disobey the law, it breeds contempt for law. It invites every man to call law on himself. It invites anarchy. That's what you're looking at. Anarchy, chaos, breakdown of our civilization. It was in the news today with these BLM riots that have happened across America. The insurance company says they have already done more damage than any riots in the history of our nation, and it's not even about to stop. And one observer said it looks like more damage is done so far than all of the riots in 1960s put together. The harm that's been done, the looting, and the people justify looting, and the attacks on cops, and the people are justified. And now we got 2 cops murdered in LA, and we got people saying that was a good thing. What kind of a sick, tragic person says this? But this media, this dynamic, and it threatens the very survival of our civilization. So let's recap what happened to me.
Let's do it, sir.
I retired from the Army.
When you hear this,
well, I've been on the road somewhere between 200 and 300 days a year for 23 years. I get home 1, maybe 2 nights a week. Conjugal visit, clean underwear, back on the road. So,
hey, at least somebody's getting some around here.
By any definition, America's #1 law enforcement trainer.
Yes, you are.
So they started going after me, just like they were after the cops. And here's the thing. Not a single one of these questionable incidents is somebody I taught. Not one.
Right.
They say, and we're teaching warrior cops. Now, that's interesting because we call our medical people during the pandemic frontline warriors. And we talk about fire service warriors all the time. But use that word warrior to apply to cops. Suddenly it's evil and bad. And the crazy thing is, we're not talking about warriors. The warrior model, the guardian model, we draw from both sides of that equation. It's a false narrative to begin with.
Correct.
So we get all of these articles in newspapers and magazines about me that never mentions my book. So let's just recap it real quick. My book on killing,
Mhm.
500,000 copies sold worldwide, translated to 7 languages, Marine Corps Commandant's required reading list. That Google Scholar said it has been cited in over 2,900 scholarly works. One of the great scholarly works of our time. Most important for all you people out there in the front lines is on combat. Again, Marine Corps Commandant's required reading. If you're going to read one book, the fire service guys are using it. The medical folks are embracing it. It's being used by ER docs and nurses. I got a great testimonial from a nurse I put on my Facebook page and on my LinkedIn page.
That's one I have yet to read, sir, but I will.
And we'll get you a copy. It's important. It's important. But you know, I had articles published in peer-reviewed articles on Harvard Law and public policy. I had 3 entries in the Academic Press Encyclopedia of Violence, Peace, and Conflict, peer-reviewed at the highest levels. I wrote the entry on aggression and violence in the Oxford Compendium of American Military History. They don't mention it. They write a whole article about me and never mention my books. They never mention a single scholarly work or credentials. And again, I give you a few.
That would make you sound smart, and they make you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly right. It's not journalism; it's character assassination.
Correct.
I'm a life member of the American College of Forensic Examiners Institute. I'm a life diplomate of the American Board for Certification of Homeland Security, certified and qualified at the highest levels. They don't mention that.
No.
So the point is that what happened to you and where we're at now with these attacks on me, I just did a video with 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes ain't what they once were. They're another kind of has-been that, you know. But I spent hours on 60 Minutes. And this lady interviewing me is like a prosecutor in a case, asking the same question over and over again, trying to get a different answer. I didn't mind because it just gave me a chance to do it better and better, right?
Exactly.
Who knows where they're going to go with that? But I told her, I said, look, you know, you talk about me, you don't even mention my books. That's not journalism, that's character assassination.
Right.
So see where they go. But at the time I told her, I said, look at the black female chief of Seattle PD who resigned.
Right.
She said,
what was his name? Carmen
said,
Best?
you're setting me up for failure. I can't do the job. If she can't do the job, who can? And then we had the black female chief of Dallas quit. And that was after the show. Otherwise, I would have talked about her. These 2 police chiefs are bulletproof.
Right.
They're black, they're female. You cannot accuse them of racism. You cannot accuse them of sexism. They're good people who earned their rank, come up through the ranks, and they quit. The upshot of this whole business is to make our cities impossible to govern.
Right.
To make our cities impossible to be able to protect the public.
And I've been saying, because a lot of this blame about what's happening now, sir, is a lot of the blame is going to the police that they're not doing their job. And it's not the police, it's the people above them. The cops ain't afraid of the people rioting. They'll put them down on the ground. Yeah. They're afraid of the people above them that can get them in trouble. And for those of you that just started listening, we're talking to Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman, former Army Ranger, paratrooper, and a psychology professor at West Point, and an accomplished author. And he's been our guest. And go ahead, continue, sir. Just tuning in.
So that's where we are right now. A black female police chief in 2 of our largest cities, 2 times over, said, I can't do this job. Then who can?
Right.
They have made our cities ungovernable. So here's the key. Their goal is not to reform policing. Their goal is to destroy our civilization. Mm-hmm. Their goal is to make our cities ungovernable. Now, here is the social contract. The Pharaoh, the Roman Empire, every government there ever was, here's the contract. You obey the law, you pay your taxes, and we'll help keep you safe. Ain't that the deal? Obey the law, pay your taxes, and our job is to help keep you safe. If we can't keep them safe, why would they pay the law? But pay the taxes and obey the law.
Exactly.
And what that means is public safety is the one irreplaceable ingredient in every government. Everything else is secondary. Public safety is the foundation the government rests on, and they have spent 20 years, they spent 20 years destroying public safety, destroying the ability of this nation to rule itself and to rule its subjects.
You know, so, and I've said that because a lot of people come up and say, after, you know, how can you support the military and support law enforcement and the government with everything that happened to you? And I'm like, you know, the country needs government. We need government. We need public safety, because if not, everything would be chaos. Now, I'm not happy about some people that were in government running the show, you know, but we need government. We need that public safety and that whole, you know, control, because if not, everybody, it's like what's happening now. Look what's happening now when there's no control over anything.
And so it all comes down to this next election.
Yes.
And the mask is off. The left has made it clear what they represent. They're anti-cop,
yes,
and chaos and breakdown of civilization. And it's like communism and socialism everywhere. If you don't agree with us, you're counter-revolutionary, you're evil, you should go to jail.
Exactly.
In socialism, in communism, you can't disagree with the government or you go to jail. And that's what they're saying. They allow free speech as long as it doesn't conflict with them. And so it's a one-way street. And socialism is their religion. It has to be a religion. It's never been proven to work. It has to be operate on faith. So why do we keep doing what we do? Here's the key. Here's the heart of it all. The baseline of resiliency, that's what I teach, is the bulletproof mind, resiliency. People who do not get PTSD. And the baseline of resiliency is to know that your sacrifice is for a noble and worthy purpose. Now,
amen.
Waiting at home for me is my bride of 45 years, my high school sweetheart.
God bless.
Yeah, she was 15. I was 17 when I proposed to her. I tell people we are from Arkansas.
Yeah.
2 years later, she married a crazy Army paratrooper. Been in this ride with me for 45 years. I love her more than life itself.
I can't imagine, sir.
And yet, for the last 23 years, I spent far more time away from her than I ever spent with her, right? 1 or 2 nights a week, conjugal visit, clean underwear, back in the road.
Right.
Because the only people on earth more precious than my bride are my grandchildren. And we believe if we love our children, if we love our grandchildren, if we love our nation, if we love our God, we're going to walk out that door and give 100%.
Amen.
64 years old. I've been doing this for 23 years, and it's my prayer I can do it for another 20 years. Every day I have the health. Every day somebody wants here, we got to give. I'm going to walk out that door and do it. Because I love my nation. I love my God.
Same here.
I love my grandchildren. And I am determined. And the thing about love, if you had a child who was sick, and you would sell everything you have, you would turn the world upside down to get the medical support for that child. What wouldn't you do for your child with cancer? You'd quit your job, you'd turn the world inside out to save that child. And that's the thing about love.
Exactly.
Love means the worse it gets, the more determined you are. Give it all you got.
Roger that.
All the sheepdogs out there, all you folks out there, Gary's folks have been listening to him. I'm so honored to have you on board. My folks that I hopefully have joined in here to understand. And when this gets posted, Gary, I will tell them that this is the first time we've ever really looked hard at the politics, the glide path, and this coming election, and why it is so desperately, critically important.
Amen.
And that's why you keep doing what you do, brother. TJ, you're an old retired firefighter. You could be swigging a beer and setting up somewhere next to the pool. You could be doing something else.
That's what he does. He hangs out by his pool all day long.
But you ain't making great heaps of money doing this job. You ain't here on this podcast make lots of money.
No, I'm here for the therapy.
And here's the key. Nobody becomes a cop, a soldier, a firefighter just for the money.
Right.
They can't pay you enough money to go towards your death.
I was a volley, sir. I was a volley. I didn't even get paid. I had a full-time
job.
job.
Yeah, volunteer. So no, nobody does this job for the money.
Right.
Nope.
You know,
and the thing to understand is,
reflect on what you just told us about your marriage. I was with a beautiful girl that gave me 2 beautiful stepdaughters, and I'm daddy to one of them. She doesn't know that I'm not a daddy. And unfortunately, we ended up getting divorced last December. But I'm really proud of her because 2 weeks ago, she started the San Antonio Police Department, and she's in the academy right now, and she's killing it. And like who who wants to be a cop right now? And she asked me she told me that they ask her that all the time. And she's like, because, you know, she wants to serve the communities and stuff. And I told her, all you got to tell them is somebody needs to be. The country needs us. The country needs us to be cops.
When you chose to be a cop, you gave up on being stinking, filthy American dream rich, at least not legally.
Right. Exactly.
You chose to be a cop. You gave up on being a famous celebrity, at least not in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Look at me. Look at me.
When you chose to be a cop, you chose a life of sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And you must believe your sacrifice is for a noble and worthy purpose.
It
and
is.
all you sheepdogs, all you magnificent men and women listening to this thing, believe in who you are.
Amen.
Believe in what you do. It's bad. It's desperately bad. And the worse it gets, the more we need you.
Now, how can patriots make a difference today?
Yes.
Like, I have friends that are in these areas where these riots are going on. They're burning down buildings, but yet they're apprehensive of responding because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to go to jail, but yet they feel that somebody needs to do something. The cops have their hands tied right now.
Yeah.
And the only support they could have is the patriots.
I was going to ask you that, sir. Is the fear that people have about killing, is it fear of dying? Is it actually a fear of killing, or is it fear of going to jail?
You know, there's all of those. The fear of dying is huge. The reluctance to kill is huge, but the primary thing that causes a post-traumatic response is a lack of support after the incident.
Amen.
That's what emotionally destroys people. Now, you got to understand that the vast majority are stronger from the experience. We're not competent pity party here. We're not saying everybody has PTSD.
Right.
Of all the things that could happen, to be attacked by your own chain of command, to be attacked by your own government, is one of the psychologically most destructive things that could happen to any human being. And again, we're not copping some pity party out here, but understand that of all the things we could encounter, that's the hardest thing to live with. Now, interpersonal human aggression, a human being trying to harm you, is the most psychologically corrosive and toxic thing anybody will ever face. The DSM, the Bible of Psychiatry and Psychology, says, and this is critical, when the cause of your trauma is human in nature, the degree of post-traumatic stress disorder is usually more severe and long-lasting. So I'll give you 2 case studies.
Yes,
You tell me if there's a difference. Case study 1, a tornado hits a house while you're gone and puts your family in the hospital. How do you feel about that one? Thank God they're alive. Huh?
Thank God they're alive.
2, criminals break into the house while you're gone and beat your family into a hospital stay. Now how do you feel?
Now that's a personal attack.
Amen.
That's anger.
And you got to wrap your mind around that. If the one is an act of nature, fires are a chemical reaction. But when a human being has made the decision to harm your loved ones,
Now you want revenge.
it's a different dynamic.
Yep.
And that's what we ask cops to do. That's what we're asking cops to do, is face, number one, the most psychologically corrosive environment any human being will ever face, interpersonal human aggression. And then number 2, to fear being attacked by their own chain of command.
Right.
To fear being attacked. So here's the key. I've been telling cops for 2 decades, get knee deep in local elections. Endorse candidates. The fire guys are all over this. The fire guys have been playing this game forever. They endorse
That's how we get our money.
school board. First and foremost, you get control of the local school board. The schools do exactly what the school board tells them, and you elect that school board. They're often decided by a handful of votes.
Yep.
You get involved in your city politics. You know who your council member is? Do you know the mayor? Do you know who's in charge at the county level? Do you even know who's in charge of your county? These are the places where we can make a change at the grassroots. Even just a handful of votes can swing that city council member, that school board member, that county judge can be turned by just a handful of votes. And we got to get knee deep in these things. We got to get right in the fight and fight to get good people in position there. Run candidates, elect candidates, and we can make a difference, just a handful of votes, number 1. Number 2, at the state and national level, you got to vote, and you got to make sure your family votes and your friends vote. You got to be motivated. They say the big advantage that the president has right now is the enthusiasm of his supporters.
That's right.
And we got to hope that a lot of the left say, oh, I'm not going to go to a poll and be exposed to disease just to vote. Well, good for you, buddy. You stay home. That's cool.
Right.
And what the left is all wearing face masks, and the mask, we got to talk about the mask. You know, a politician wearing a mask is an idiot. You see a picture of Biden and Harris wearing masks. They're idiots. Because nobody trusts them. It is a deep biological built-in dynamic. We do not trust somebody wearing a mask.
That's right.
You can't undo vast. Oh, I love the hat, buddy. I love the hat. You cannot do thousands and thousands of years of conditioning and biology and DNA by suddenly having some commercial that says, "Oh, wearing a mask is a good thing." Deep in that midbrain, there's social isolation. And you know, they put a mask, putting a mask on somebody makes them easier to attack. You deny their humanity. A firing squad, they put a hood over them. You know, and the Israeli research says if you're kidnapped and your captors blindfold you, put a hood over you, you're far more likely to be killed by your captors. You think, well, I can't identify these guys. I'm not a threat to them. That's not what's keeping you alive. What's keeping you alive is look in the eyes of another human being. Here's the crazy part now. This comes back to my book on killing. 500,000 copies sold worldwide, 2,900 times cited in scholarly works. People point some horrible crime. Now, that proves that mankind is a killer. No, that's an outlier. It's literally 1 in a million. Right. You explain to me the 99.9% of our citizens go a lifetime, never kill anybody or even seriously attempt to. Explain that. Think about it. Divorce, infidelity, layoff, traffic accidents. And in a lifetime of provocation, less than 1 in 1,000 citizens will even seriously attempt to take a human life. Explain that.
True that.
It's like most healthy members of our species is a pretty hardwired resistance. But
you beat them within an inch of their life.
You put a mask
what's odd is what you just said about the captors. If they put the hood over your head, you're more than likely to be killed by your captors. You know who else told me that? And this was a long time ago. G. Gordon Liddy told me that. G. Gordon Liddy told me those exact same words when we were talking one time, because I was on his radio show several times and we chit-chatted, and he told me those exact same words. And I just got goosebumps when you told them to me, sir.
And when you wear a mask, it gives you anonymity and it empowers violence.
Yep.
We know people will say things and do things online they would never do face-to-face.
Yep.
Right.
Wearing a mask does the same thing. You create that sense of anonymity. And you know, when you see the headsman, when you see the hangman, they're wearing masks. Why do they wear a mask? It empowers their violence, and it allows them to isolate themselves and to remove accountability.
Right.
So this whole business of wearing masks, what I tell everybody out there is be very, very careful. Now, I wear a mask when I have to, because people wearing masks will become offensive. And wear the mask out of safety, because them wearing a mask can be empowered to violence.
Right.
But don't try to make somebody wear a mask, baby. You just back off of all that stuff. Nobody made me the mask police.
We're non-believers.
I wear it, I do. But it's crazy. And any politician wearing a mask, and I keep saying photos of Biden wearing a mask. I'd say, good, get about all the photos of Biden wearing that black muzzle.
Yep.
Yeah.
A muzzle.
They think it's some kind of a virtue signal, and it's a religion. You know, Islam, fundamentalist Islam, makes women wear a mask. And that's what's happening. It's a religious symbol, just like Islam. It shows their faith and it's the most harmful thing you could do as far as empowering violence and as far as social isolation and causing bad things are happening. And as a politician, to wear a mask is absolutely stupid. Your goal as a politician is to contact with them.
Face to face.
And you cover the face. What happens to face without a face?
Exactly.
The phrase face to face. What happened to face when they don't have a face?
Yep.
I mean, how can you even wear a mask on TV if you're a politician? I mean, you know, you're on TV. Take the mask off.
It's a signal. It's their religion.
Right.
It's a religion of socialism. And just like Islam makes women wear a mask, we're going to make everybody wear a mask. And that's the power of our religion.
And you see all these videos. You see these videos of people with masks attacking people that choose not to wear a mask.
Yes.
All out fist fights and brawls.
Yes. So don't be the mask police, baby. But if they're wearing masks, I'll wear a mask. I mean, I carry a gun, but it's hidden.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
I like the open carry movement. Americans got to get used to seeing people with guns. But for me,
Yep.
the open carry guy, he's my decoy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Bad guy carry, shoot him. I'm going to shoot the bad guy and appreciate him doing that for me, right? My advice, don't be the
shit.
decoy. Yeah? Let somebody else be the decoy. Same thing with a mask. Don't be confrontational by not wearing a mask. You know, don't be the guy that's going to invoke violence.
I leave it hanging off my ear. I have it. I just leave it hanging off my ear.
Yeah. So it's there when we need it. But just understand what we've come to with these politicians that demand that you have this social isolation be inflicted upon us for what? If it just these are crazy times and bad times are upon us, and it's far worse than it looks. Remember, the number of murdered people completely underrepresent the problem. It's far worse than it looks. Mm-hmm. And so during this dark and desperate hour, as we love our nation, as we love our children, we've got to rock and roll and hang in there with all we got. But there's one other thing that I'd like to talk to you about.
But before you go on, sir, there's two things that you've talked about that I want to bring up. And one is voting, because we need to re-elect the president, re-elect President Trump, which is one thing that I cannot do. I can't vote. So I'm just riding this wave on a surfboard.
I'll vote twice for you, baby.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
We're not allowed to do that.
And the other thing is carrying a firearm. I can't carry a firearm. You know, not if the president would find it in his heart to give me a pardon, I always tweet to him and I say I will make you proud if you do it. You know, but I would go and become a reserve police officer and continue serving my country. That's the first thing I do is become a reserve police officer.
The pendulum will swing back the other way, guys. The more crazy it gets that way, the quicker it's going to come back this way.
Exactly.
The pendulum will swing back the other way. You got to believe in our way of life. You got to believe in our nation.
And I do. I do.
Believe.
But you know, another angle on all this.
Let's hear it, sir.
Resiliency. And the key to resiliency is identify the things you can't control and let go of them. You know, what other people are doing, you can't control that. What your superiors are doing, you can't control that. The only time you control is when you vote. The rest of the time, you can't control it. There's only one thing in the universe you can control. It's yourself, right now.
Right.
And if we give way to bitterness or cynicism or complacency or denial, that's the one thing we can control.
Exactly.
And you've given the world a victory with your own hand. And Gary, you are an example of somebody who's had something terrible happen, and yet you drive on. You're a hero. You're a true American comeback hero. And you haven't descended into bitterness and despair. You got humor, and you're putting out this podcast, and you're touching lives, and you're fighting across the board for what's right and good in our nation. You know, you are the Lone Ranger of the airwaves with your faithful helper, Tonto. Okay. You didn't know TJ stands for Tonto Jr. Yeah.
There you go.
I like it.
Ranger of the airwaves, firing silver bullets of truth and justice with his faithful sidekick.
I like it. I like it. I like it better than sidekick.
Yeah. Oh shit. And you know, I'm going to be honest with you, and I've put this out on several of my podcasts. It takes a lot of energy to be bitter. People ask me all the time, how can you not be bitter?
Yes.
It's not that I'm not. It's just it takes too much energy to be it. So I try to be positive, and sometimes I wish quit was in my vocabulary because I'm so tired of starting from scratch, starting at the bottom. I've lost everything I've owned about 5 times in my life. And I always end up rising back up. And my brothers tell me, they're like, you know, you're going to come out of this. You're going to come out on top. I'm like, I know I am. I'm just tired of starting at the bottom again.
Yes. And you know, the pandemic financially has hammered me real hard.
I can imagine.
I got 2 full-time employees. I'm not going to stop paying them. I've stopped getting a paycheck. Thank God for the president's payroll protection plan. It's kept me alive. But this is financially the worst it's ever been for me. But I'm going to drive on. And you know what? It would be so easy to quit right now. I got military retirement. I'm eligible for Social Security. I got some royalties coming in. But these guys piss me off the way they keep attacking. I would have gave up a long time ago. I would have just resigned. I would have retired if they just would leave me the hell alone. But here's the key. We're sheepdogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fighting with a sheepdog is like wrestling with a pig. Everybody gets dirty, but the pig likes it. Yeah.
Right.
But they don't understand. They don't understand.
That's outstanding, sir.
You push us, and we push back again.
Right.
We're motivated by these attacks. We're empowered by these attacks. And the worse it gets, the more determined we are to give it all we got.
We will not bow down.
But let me give you an angle on all this. Now, we talked about the coins earlier.
Right.
I love you got yours back there. And you know, the coins are the ultimate symbol of the warriors of this generation.
Correct.
Off the top of my head, I'll introduce you to a dozen cops with more gunfights than White Earp ever dreamed of. I will show you case after case of gunfights and make the OK crowd pale by comparison that you never heard of. But it's the ultimate symbol of this age. When we're dead and gone and our grandkids are fighting over our possessions,
Correct.
those coins will be the most valuable thing I have to give them. I'm going to show you. All right, there's a bunch of my coins there. And then there's
Wow.
And here's the key, guys. Here's the key. 10 years ago, I stopped putting them up on the wall. I just didn't have room. I cherish every one. I honor every one of them.
Take a couple of swords down.
I want to show you what is the most important thing that I have in my room.
Yes, sir.
And in my office, I want to show you a little something here now.
He's
This is going to be
look
good.
At that. Look at the knight's armor behind him.
I know. I'm looking at that.
Oh my goodness. He's got some goodies.
That's the armor of God right there.
All of those are gifts. But you know, in 2006, a man walked in the back door of West Nickel Mines Amish School in Pennsylvania,
Right.
pulled out a gun, told all the boys to leave, and took the girls hostage. He held those girls hostage. Cops responded, and he murdered the little Amish girls one by one. I was there after the incident. They asked me to come. I volunteered my time. We had all the first responders there, and that was a hard one. We've all seen bad things. The crime scene photos, the little Amish girls in this little classroom with smiley faces and wildflowers in vase. These little Amish girls bound hand and foot with their brains splashed across the wall with a shotgun blast. They're just evil. You know, most of the things cops face are just people who are confused, people who are in need of correction. So we send them to a correctional facility, right? But sometimes we look right in the eyes of evil. And if you ever use the word evil, use that what happened in that school. And we had the Amish fathers there and the Amish school board people there. We would never have Amish, you know. I told my, imagine 20 Amish in the audience today. They were here in this one. After I get done, they gave me this. It's a
wow.
in happier days. And the Amish don't like the faces to be depicted. If you look closely at that, the kids close have their face turned away, and the kids far away don't have a face on it. Just, you know, but on the back of it, all these Amish school people and fathers signed it for me.
Wow.
And all the things that I own, far and away, beyond all, that's the most precious of all. And here's what it's all about. There is evil in this world.
There is.
Who would not walk in that door and die to save the lives of those precious little girls?
Amen.
Who would not lay their life down? That's who we are.
Then
we say in the Sheepdog Kids book, the sheep will die to protect the ones they love. Only the sheepdog loves enough to die for other people's loved ones.
Exactly.
People die for their loved ones. The sheepdog will die for people they never met.
That's right.
Sometimes the greatest love is not to sacrifice your life, but to live a life of sacrifice.
That's
So
right.
when you boil it all down, that the dynamic of love versus evil. The opposite of evil is not good. The opposite of evil is love.
That's correct, sir.
And evil is the absence of love. So I give you one other angle of this now. You know, again, cops look at evil. They see abused children. They see horribly mutilated individuals. They see bad things. So my most recent book came out just a couple of months ago. It's on spiritual combat. And I hope to fight the good fight for another 20 years. But I could go home now, and I talk about, one day the sheepdog will finally rest at the feet of the great shepherd. And we yearn to hear those words, well done, thy good and faithful servant. I commend the book with all my heart, but here's we're bringing it all together now. Remember that internal locus of control. Identify the things you can't control and let go of them. Turn them over to a higher power. Alcoholics Anonymous talks about turning over to a higher power. And you got to have a higher power. You can. One of the pillars of resiliency is faith. For all you out there that know my books and know about me, I tell you, read this one most and foremost, because we are fighting a battle against forces of evil.
I can't wait to get
When
it.
you look in the eyes of evil, you don't have good on your side, you're in trouble. And so it's all about sustaining yourself for the long haul. And you do that with love, and you do that with a higher power to turn all these things over to and walk out that door. I know you're a man of faith. You said, talking about your situation, you called out to God. And that's what it's all about, brother.
This here, sir, is my daily planner, because I do a little bit of real estate on the side, right? And right here, it tells me to write my goals, right? I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it. Over here, it tells me to write my goals, right? So in the morning, I say my goals are to praise the Lord, Savior Jesus Christ, for all he does for me every day, get through the day and be productive and do something for others, stay on the right path and try to do what I can to make God proud of me.
Oh, praise God.
And then today I said, review Lieutenant Commander David Grossman's book and make it a great podcast.
Wow.
That's what it is right there. So yeah, I start every day being grateful for what I have, and real quick, people don't understand it. Like my situation and your situation, I got hit on my motorcycle in 2016, and I ended up with 2 broken bones in my foot, fractured and sprained both my ankles, fractured leg, broke my collarbone, tore my rotator cuff. And my son, and I thank God to be alive. And my son was like, why are you thanking God? He got you hit by a car. I was like, yes, but I could have been killed at the next intersection. And this was his way of saying, whoa, slow it down.
Well, and we talk, I'll give you example after example in the book where people who died and God used that to do incredible good things.
Right.
We don't know what his plan is. And I talk about people who died. And one of the people I talked about at 9/11, Christopher Amoroso. Christopher Amoroso was a police officer who died on 9/11. And I use a photograph of him in my classes.
God bless him.
Now here's a photograph. He's on his second trip down for the World Trade Center on 9/11.
I've seen that photo. Yes, sir.
Her face is beet red. His face is bone white. He's taken a blow to that left cheekbone and the other side of the head. They're pretty bad cut. He's been burned. But when the face goes white like that, the blood drains from the forebrain, and there's no rational thought of that man's head. It is a simple medical fact. There's no rational thought of that man's head. But he will drop off that pregnant woman